So, a few years back, I braided these trees together as such, so they will make this arch here. And, I had made a few more, but they weren't that good, and they were taken down when they were trying to make the pathway a little bit nicer. Now, to my pleasant surprise, not only are these standing, I occasionally walk through here, but it's been a couple of months, and now look at these. Now these are not mine. I did not make these, but I would say they're pretty well done. They clearly took inspiration from the one I made over there. And I have made more similar. I think this one is the nicest one, but I made more similar, and I made like rails along the path over here. I might film it, but I'm not sure if I care to. But here, these are made by some others who have just seen me doing it, and they thought it looked nice, and yeah, they replicated it, and I think it looks nice. It's those little things you can do while you're walking past, a path that people walk, and you can make it look quite nice. Now, this used to be an old road, like the main road, in fact. Granted, it wasn't grown over like this, but this was the only road that went between the village that I live in and the village that I'm walking to. Now we have a brand new road, and but while this road was the main road, the connection was so poor that most people actually used the boats to get wherever they needed to. And then it was mostly kids sent through this road to go to the school at the village over there if they lived where I'm going to now, for example. So yeah, no, I thought this was really neat, and I figured I'd just film it and share it to you. Like, you can do something like this wherever you're living if you have something similar. And yeah, one of the more satisfying things is to be inspired and then inspire further. So I thought it was nice that I thought it looked nice, but I thought it was a neat idea I had. Others gave a good comment, and a few years later, some just decided to do the same. And that's pretty cool. Oh shit, it's wet here, and my shoes are not for it. This moss is extremely squishy and wet. My shoes are not meant for that. Oh well. So let's see, maybe I am actually not too far away from... Oh, yeah, not too far. Oh, let me have a look. Since I'm filming, I might as well have a little digression here. Oh, fuck, it's still muddy here. Oh, damn. I'm gonna be wet before I get to the store. Ah, here, they're doing well. So this is an aspen. It has a parasite on it here, on the leaf. It's like an egg larva that's growing inside. Now, this ant hive actually used to be in my living room. It had its main location here. It seems like they have abandoned it completely, yeah. So you can see some of the... Here you see the white things inside here. That's eggshells, crushed eggshells that I had in... that I fed them eggs and eggshells and stuff like that so they could build their hive. So what I took most of the hive while it was here, and I put it in an aquarium, and I had it overwinter in my living room. Yes, I did. And then by springtime I let them out. I put them back here, and it seems that the old colony had started migrating, so they just basically did that. So over the course of 1 or 2 years, the concentration of ants stopped being around there, and they went over here, and now they're booming. I would say they are about twice the size as they were when I took them in, maybe even bigger. And yeah, this is Aspendale, and this is the aspen tree. That's where it got from. However, many of the aspens have been eradicated, so that's not so much of the most prevalent tree. Like, this is still an aspen, but you have a bunch of rowan, and this is rowan, this is birch. There are no willows around here. I think actually, usually most of the aspen do better a little bit further up. Here's willow. These have been trimmed. They keep getting trimmed fairly regularly because they're very fast growing. That was a fir tree, a very nice one. I did not appreciate it to take that away. I was once tempted to take these guys. It's too bad I just took a piss before I filmed, because what I often do is I take a piss at these and they freak out and they start pissing on, profusely in all directions, not really knowing where to react. It's just to piss them off, and they don't take any real harm from it. They piss everywhere, and then you can smell the formic acid, so they basically out piss you, and they do that quickly. So it's kind of amusing. Let's see how things are looking here. I had made a bunch of rails, not here, oh yeah, further down here, because down here there used to be a fair amount of trees, but I think they cut down most of what was braided. Let's see now. Yeah, you see there's a part of it here. Oh, this is gonna be a really long video. Yeah, so these trees, you see here, the willow is actually so resilient that even when it's cut off, it's still gonna be oh, here's an ant. They're still gonna be growing these shoots. Now, if this was a smaller tree, I guess like this one, and you cut off here and you put it in the ground the right way down, so to speak, it would have had a chance of hitting roots. But even still, you see like here are the shoots from the stem. So here there's going to be a bunch of willow. It's what it is. So I had made actually like the similar braids, the arches that I had made some here, and I had made rails through the large portions here. I'm not sure if we can see any of the tangled ones down there, but no. But they cut it all down, so it's kind of a waste to just leave it here. But then again, this isn't a very easy area to get to. Wow, this is actually just from this year. This is how quickly they grow. So this is called coppicing. When you're coppicing a willow, when you're cutting it at the bottom, it's called coppicing. And I think you might be able to see that the spacing on these rings is pretty big. So they grow really fast. So that means it has a good growing condition, probably because the boulders placed here gives it good aeration, and it has apparently a fair amount of nutrients going by. Now, like I said, these came up this year, like they just shoot up. This is the amount, the volume they had just sprouted up for the last 3-4 months, and this is because they already have a very well established root system. But this is, like I said, coppicing when you take it on the bottom. If you take them on, let's say, this height, they will do the same, except you maintain the stem, and they will grow even quicker, because on the stem they will also be making branches. Now, within 2 or 3 years, these are good for weaving baskets and stuff. That's what's very common some places. But you wait a few more years and you have firewood without losing the tree. And one cool thing about doing that, pollarding the trees, and for that matter coppicing, is that not only do you have like a faster growth because the root systems are well established. These are the trees that they started off with. That's the root system they had. So with all the small roots coming out, they have a lot to go on. But another cool thing is that you are actually, in many cases, increasing biodiversity, because you're cycling intermittently within the ecosystem without actually removing anything. So the shifting lights, because for time being now you're opening the floor for more light, and so fresh trees can come, but also other species that tend to not be around. And so come next culling period, when you are pollarding or coppicing or whatever, there's likely to have been more activity than if you just clear cut it. But yeah, there was something else I was going to say, but I'm going to keep moving before this video gets too long. Oh yeah, you can do the same with birch. This is a birch. So the difference between a willow and a birch is that the willow, you can pretty much cut it whenever, and yeah, it will matter in terms of how vigorous it's going to grow back. But if you kill these, for example, in the winter, then unlike the willow, the birch is not going to be able to stop the flow of nutrients it's dragging up from its roots, and it bleeds itself to death unless it already has branches to sprout out that. So the best time actually to take these are like early summer, maybe midsummer. But these were taken fairly early in spring, and fortunately they seem to manage. But you can see that birch there is not growing nearly as much as the willows over there. They are booming. So yeah, I told you this was the road that people used to walk. That's free for, I keep watching this rock here. I'm expecting it to fall on me any moment. I mean, something like that. Like I like moving rocks, but that's a little bit too much for a spindly guy like me. So yeah, of course it takes a lot more time to walk to the store. I like the shape of the lesions here, huh? Some pretty cool patterns. This is not graffiti or anything. This is just similar to moss. It's called lesions or lesions or something. And this is a different type. So there are many types. And here on the lesions, you can see the moss will often start growing. And so this is what you're basically observing here is a low level of ecological succession right on the rock. So these things, they can live straight off the rock. They probably have some symbiosis with microbes that enable them to extract nitrogen from the air and convert in exchange for sugars. And then gradually, as they pile up and die and make organic matter, the moss is able to it doesn't really have roots, but it kind of attaches itself to the lesions. You see, here's a different type yet again. So this is not the same as this one, and this is not the same as that one. Kind of spongy. Yeah, as the moss dies, you will like this is how trees eventually start. Trees and grasses start hitting roots because the moss doesn't, like, it dies if you give it nitrogen. So if you give it like fertilizer for the lawn, it will kill the moss because it doesn't, it cannot handle it. But as it also builds up naturally, there is kind of like a reserve of nitrogen in it. So when it dies and it becomes the concentration becomes sufficient, then you start seeing things like grass coming, and they also, you know, their fibers and roots, they die, and then the trees will be having better growing conditions. And so yeah, that's why eventually like places like this as well will start having you see there's a tree growing right there. Let's see if we can focus. Yeah, there, I think. Yeah, there we go. So that one is growing straight on moss, and there's been, you see over there, maybe let's see if I can zoom here. So you see those, that's just on moss, but there is a thin layer of soil under that moss, because the moss has been growing and dying for quite a while. So, oh, when did you guys come here? Oh yeah, that's right, there's been cutting, so it's just a little change of these guys don't seem to do much. Well, I'm gonna probably be walking back, and I'm gonna have some beer, and I'll take a piss on them. I'll film it, and you can see how angry they get. Wow. Let's see, was it? Yeah, so I had actually the trees that were here, I had braided up the branches. I lifted them up and then hooked them on the branch above, and then I braided them so they would stabilize. And so they were arching over, and for a while that went fine. You could walk here more or less, but you were still pretty close to the edge, right? And then they got heavy and they started sagging down, and I was unable to braid them, or at least not satisfactory. So people eventually come and cut it away. And you know, I like trees, but I guess this was a little bit unsafe to have them that close, since they were actually pushing you out. There used to be an anthill here. I'm suspecting maybe that one over there has been migrated, or maybe they just killed it. Yeah, I think they killed it. There was a fairly sizable anthill here that was, or was it here? Now I'm a little bit confused. I thought they would make it. I tried to relocate them a little bit away, but they just, and you know, for a while it seemed like it worked, but they just migrated back to the edge of the cliff, and now they have been expelled, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm filming correctly, but so you see, this kind of like, it takes way more time to get to the store. I'm actually not even halfway because I'm so fixated on filming and showing around, but well, for once I'm not rushing to get to the store. Here you have an example of natural pollarding. It's probably the moose that has broken this one down, and now it's crowning out in all directions. This is also a willow, and it's crowning out in all directions. And another cool thing with the willow is that it tends to shed branches readily as they die off. So like here, it doesn't need more sun, for example. So it makes so this is like fairly easy to break off and use as firewood, for example. Not so easy to start with, but once you got a small fire going, these do well to I think I had braided some. No, was it here? Oh yeah, here it is. This is the brand new road. It's the curvature there and everything has been evened out, so it used to be much sharper, and they have blown out large portions of the bedrock over there. So where you see the road is where the rocks used to be, maybe even further. And then they leveled up because it was much steeper. So you can see now the road is in a depression over there. It used to be on the top, so you had a much nicer view. But yeah, so now like if you tipped over or something like that, it could be quite dangerous. And I myself, I had some years back, there was ice on the road. I lost grip on my way up the road, and so the way that the leveling of the road was caused me to kind of tilt, not go out because I wasn't driving so fast. I didn't slide out the road, but I slid into the fence, the what do you call it, the car rails or whatever. And it was of an inclination that it started on the hill and went up. So my car was went with one wheel on each side of the rail, and I slid up and kind of got hooked on the fence. Now, if I tipped over, because it was much steeper and a lot of rocks and shit, if I tipped over, the car would have been totaled. But fortunately, everything went just fine. Probably attributed to me having a low speed. But yeah, the road didn't used to be very safe, so this is a great improvement, especially, and this ties into that they're going to build a new pier for bigger ferries and stuff like that by the harbor where I am heading. So here's, yeah, I braided them. I think this one was tilting over, so I braided it away. I believe I had braided more, but I guess maybe someone had taken it down. Might be. You know, if people don't want it there, you know, I'm not taking any offense of them. You know, we all just go about it. If I have an issue with them cutting down, it's only if they cut a lot. But if they don't like the stuff that I braided in the middle of the path, because, you know, I thought it would be, I just did it temporarily for the fun of it, aesthetics, making more paths. You see, here's one of them that they didn't care to take away. I think I have one more over there. So this one isn't doing so well. It didn't have so much to work on, but it's holding off. I think it is 2 or 3 years ago since I did it. You see, it's having issues with diseases and stuff, so may not. Maybe just as, ooh, and look, shrooms are popping out, and this is a good sign because not long after these come up, there's another type of shroom that I like a lot in particular. Yeah, you see, I've just been fucking around. It's like, this one was probably going over here, and I had just been attaching it on the sides. So there used to be like, where there was a lot of growth, they eventually cut away. That's where I did stuff like that. And didn't I have another one here, I think I made another one here. Oh, maybe not. This is a really rocky place. I have to be careful because the shoes I have are actually pretty weak, so I don't want them to tear up. It's been raining quite a lot lately, so the ground is saturated with water, and that's why we get to see this little microcosm enough. Oh fuck, it's wet here. Little microcosm of life in and of by itself. Like, it's a different thing in the shade, and the moisture and all that causes nature is cool. Very, very cool. And wet for the time being. And here is the final gate. This is like the entry gate I made 3-4 years ago, maybe even further. It started to, yeah, I think this one's older. So you see, this one has actually managed to untangle itself a bit. It seems to be the birch that is best at it. The willow doesn't seem to care. It just kind of, willow and rowan, they're just like, okay, I'm there. I'll just merge with the neighboring tree if necessary. But the birches, I noticed, they tend to untangle themselves. So this used to be the entry gate that was here, untangling itself and becoming unseeming. brand new road. Very nice for the cars. Actually not so bad for me either, since, I don't know, the fresh pavement is not as bad to walk on as regular pavement. I wish they would have made the shoulder here a little bit wider, because it's kind of nice to be walking on this gravel, but it's so narrow and tilted that I just find myself walking on the I think it's just a few years ago they took these are willows as well. See, it's a nice view here. Apologies if the camera is shaking quite a bit, but yeah, it's the phone camera. So yeah, nice to have a house down there. So this is, I think it's a vacation home. So there's here I've seen otters come up and crossing the road and stuff like that. So otters are fairly big creatures and they're fairly aggressive, but they usually stay away from humans unless they think you pose a threat or are in their territory. But when they're crossing the road, they usually when they're crossing the road, they're usually finding themselves outside of their own territory, so they will run away from you if they see you. Yeah, that's also so I was saying, like, the house I just walked by and the house here, it's like many of those houses around here, and it's basically because there's, you know, families that lived here. Many of their younger generations, they moved to the cities or somewhere else, and so there's a lot of houses that are either just used for vacation for some of those people, or it is sold and used as a cabin for some other people. But there isn't that much permanent residency. So, for example, this house down here, it's sometimes used by the kids of the people who own it, and then the people who own it, they come and maintain it and stuff like that, but they don't live there themselves. So they're using like a plot next to the house. They have some potatoes, sometimes they have carrots. They tend to be, you know, using the land, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to sell it for, I think it's something they have left for their kids, and then leave the kids to decide whether, you know, this is a very nice, iconic place, right? Personally, I, you know, would prefer to be a little bit further away from the road, but I mean, this is quite a view. It's quite a nice place. Yeah, these were also taken out this year while they were dealing with the road, or this winter, I think. And you see they're kind of popping up pretty well. It was like a really nice beach. So like these, there are a few of these beaches, so 3 or 4 beaches like this for the rest of the road. And you see that white sand is very salty. It's very nice to walk up. Very there was a lot of extraction some decades ago. There was a lot of extraction of sand from beaches around here. And at some point they cut this themselves, but because again forbidden to grow in town, they take large amounts. males that tend to become quite big, and they also have propensity for eating certain other birds. How do you call it in English? It's a very famous one with a colorful beak. Kind of look like a more agile version of the penguin in a sense. More dandy one, I guess. But huh? I wasn't really supposed to make such a long film, but I hope you're enjoying, if you're still watching. I tend to say hi to all cars driving by, even if I don't know them. But I tend to notice when they get close, you know, maybe I still don't recognize them through the car windows. But I'll notice if someone throws up their hand and waves a hello to me as well. If they do not, it's a very high chance I've come to discover that it is people who tend to travel here just to be on the cabins and stuff. And these are city folks. So I guess they're quite unused to having people just say hello, you know, just waving to a random person. I simply do that because I don't have like the mental capacity to memorize the cars of people, and it's such a small place that most people know each other or know of each other, and I just think it is a perfectly good habit to just say hello, no matter who you are. Hello, it's a nice day, hope you're having a nice day, and yeah, I don't know. Unless it's a piece of shit or a fucking bitch, then you then you go American and you grab out the gun. Crazy folks. Yeah, and shooting kids seems to be like a favorite American pastime. So you may have noticed now I'm just walking on a, you know, again, I must say, because we're satisfied, we got a new road, so gotta point that out. Took a while, they were of course delayed, but many of the parts of the road, especially across the fjord there, it was pretty steep, large, fairly decent height like this, except more and steeper and right straight into the ocean, and a steep mountain going up here like you see there, but closer. And so they struggled a bit to kind of make it. Oh shit, I get so much shit in my shoes sometimes. So that's why they got delayed. So the rest of the road here for me is going to be on regular pavement like this. But you see, I have a pretty awesome scenery going on here. So that's Hastmona. I think it's Træna we're seeing over there. That's Ytre Kvarøya, and it may look like the same island, but the lower slopes, that's a different island called Indre Kvarøya. And then behind there you see the mountain peak. I hope you see behind the small one there. Yeah, there you go. So that's Lovun, I believe. That is Onøya, and then you have Lurøya. No, Stigøya. Yeah, I think that's it. So there's a camping spot for people. Oh yeah, I've seen the otters here as well. Been coming forth. Hallå! Ja, det är bara filmat till någon. Oh, so that's so the see carrots and potatoes. On the rails there, under the rails is carrots and then potatoes. The potatoes I recognize very easily because I have the same type. The same pink flowers as the one I have planted in my area. I actually used to walk, so occasionally, I used to actually walk over the mountain because close to where I started this video, I used to live for some years. And when it was a really nice day, I would go over the mountain. I don't care to do that right now. It takes much more time, it's much more tiresome, of course, but it is really awesome to have the view from there. So, but I have to get some stuff done today, so. And it was much easier where I used to live to do that, because I mean, I basically lived at the foot of the mountain, so it was a slow step for me to go over. Well, what have we here? Yes, please. Okay, I got picked up. Oh, det er kult, da kan jeg bare filme resten av veien, så. Yeah, now we get a car ride for... Oh, nice. Slapp av, filmer ikke det. Now, as you can all see, it's still very nice to drive this road. But if you're driving, you may not be able to look so much. Vet du om de her plassene er alle solgt ut?
Nei, det gjør jeg ikke.
So there might be one of these available. They have now blocked the view from here, but you have a nice view from them, so if you want to move in there. Here they would have blown out more of the road if there wasn't for a cabin up there. This is a common place for people to have like a, oops, almost hit you. There's a cave. They used to have concerts in those caves, or in that cave, on occasion. But now the rocks have gotten so porous that it's considered too dangerous. And I was mentioning the pier. Here you can see the rocks they have gathered for. See that huge pile of rocks? So that's for building a pier here, so they can have bigger ferries come by. And yeah. And this is the end of the of Tonnes. This is where the store is, and incidentally also the pier where you're generally taking ferries. Here you have a pub bar slash restaurant. If you were to fancy yourself a meal, you see people are chilling. So quite often people come from the pier here and visit. And I think there and over at the previous place we drove by, they tend to have workers who yeah, migrate in the summer. All right. 35 minutes almost, longest.
End of the line.
End of the line. Thank you very much for the drive.
You're welcome.